Game week 26 is here, so it's time to lock in those FPL teams. Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan, and there's some big decisions to be made in regards to captains, transfers, and assistant managers as well. So I'm going to cover all of that today ahead of my team selection for Game week 26. So let's start off here in my Game Week 25 scores, and it was a small green arrow for me, but nothing that could repair the damage that was done to my rank in Game Week 24 with that absolute disaster of a week. Whereby in Game Week 24, I was really disappointed, mostly in myself, because I feel a very split decision made a big difference between, you know, a big green arrow or a red arrow. This week, it's a little different. Now, my team performed very averagely, but I think sometimes you just have to hold up your hands and say, I was just super unlucky this week, and I certainly think that I was, because in Game Week 25, I think my team was set up super well. The planning had all come together, looking really good, had double Bournemouth against Southampton, yet only got one assist from Cliver, and Kirkes conceding the goal from Southampton, not really too much XG conceded in that game. We had players like Rodgers in the double game week who had 2 shots cleared off the line, which is so unlucky. Should have had multiple goals, should have had a haul really, and assists potential in there as well during Game Week 25. So he was super unlucky. Wissa had 2 goals disallowed, and it wasn't even his fault. Beautiful finishes, beautiful plays, but again, just super unlucky and fine margins there. And Burmo should have got an assist in there at least. In general, there are so many parts of my team that I think could have, on another day, performed so much better. So a disappointing week for me, I can't lie, but I think in this particular instance, it was just a case of bad luck. A good team, a strong team that the players individually, for the most part, performed very well, but there was just these fine margins that all came together and kind of prevented me from getting any significant points. But to have a super unlucky game week and still come away with a green arrow, I guess there are much worse things in the world. The question is, where do we go from here after this disappointment again in Game Week 25? How do we try and improve things? And before I share that with you guys, you are currently on a yellow card because you haven't liked the video yet. Make sure you do, or you'll get a second yellow and a red card for not liking. We're also super close to our season target of 220,000 subscribers. We only need like 100 more subscribers. So 40% of you are not subscribed. If just a few of you hit that button, we can hit that target immediately. So let's move on into Game Week 26. And I'm going to be optimistic again because I think my team is good, but that doesn't mean we can't make a few tweaks in regards to assistant manager, some of the players, maybe captaincy as well. So we do have one free transfer and a decent amount of money in the bank for any potential moves. We'll start off with Pickford in goal, who plays against Manchester United at home. Everton really picking up defensively, and Man United some really poor performances recently, and now they've lost Ahmad, who has arguably been their star player in recent months. It's going to be a good opportunity for a home team in Everton to pick up a clean sheet here. In defence, we have Gabriel at home against West Ham, and this is a super opportunity for a clean sheet. In fact, no other team comes close to Arsenal when it comes to clean sheet potential in Game Week 26. Maybe the same can't be said about the attack, with Arsenal missing a few of their key attackers, but Gabriel hopefully is going to be able to keep a clean sheet here, and maybe some attacking returns are coming soon. We're still waiting for those, aren't we? Kirkes is another one of my defenders here. He faces Wolves at home, which is another good opportunity for a clean sheet. Not quite as much as Gabriel, but it is still there. Kirkes, with a little bit of attacking threat, could capitalise on the weak defence of Wolves as well. And my final defender this week is going to be Lewis Hall, I think, because I'm certainly not convinced on this particular position. So we've got Hall at the moment against Nottingham Forest at home. I think Newcastle, off the back of that heavy defeat against Man City, and with the reintroduction of Nick Pope this game week, we hope, I think Newcastle are going to turn it around and really dig in deep for a clean sheet this week. And of course, you do have the Hall attacking potential as well. But the other defenders I have in my squad and on my bench are actually Trent Alexander-Arnold against Man City away and Castagna at home against Crystal Palace. So really, for my third defender position, I have 3 options to go for, and I'm not really 100% convinced on which one I should pick for my starting 11. So I guess it's a good problem to have, lots of options in the defense, but I'd like to know your opinions, guys. Who should I pick as my third defender? Let's bring up some stats anyway, guys. So we're looking at Rob T's projected goals and clean sheet odds on screen right now, guys. And like I mentioned, Arsenal by far the highest for clean sheet sheet odds for this week, according to the market data. 52% chance is super, super high. Brighton coming in second with 34%. And after that, we see the likes of Bournemouth, Fulham, Newcastle and Everton all around the same numbers here, around just above 30% chance of a clean sheet. So if you're looking for clean sheets alone, all of these teams are perfectly valid. All of these teams definitely have a chance. And fortunately for me, the 4 defenders / goalkeepers I have on the pitch right now all fit into this category of the higher chances of clean sheets for this game week. The question is, what do we do? Obviously, Fulham have a slightly better clean sheet chance than Newcastle, but I don't think Castagna has the same odds of an attacking return as a Lewis Hall, for example. And then we have the likes of Liverpool, 18% chance of a clean sheet. So that is significantly lower than the other teams. However, Trent has more attacking threat. But I think the fact that the likes of Fulham and Newcastle have better clean sheet odds does offset the attacking threat that Trent does have. So it's a real toss-up between those 3 players. I'm sure whichever one I pick will inevitably go wrong, but we're going to go for Hall for now, but I am open to changing my mind on that one if any of you guys can create a convincing argument for me. But I'm feeling more positive about Newcastle going into their next game week and hoping for a reaction there after the game against Man City. But let's move on into the midfield positions anyway, and we're going to start off with Mo Salah away against Man City. And even though it's a tough fixture on paper, we know that Salah has a great record playing at the Etihad. He's scored plenty of goals before there, and even if he didn't, this season, Salah is a different beast, so we're still super confident about Salah to get attacking potential, attacking threat, attacking actual numbers in any game that he plays in, because he always finds a route to points. Whether it's Jota deciding for once in his life to be unselfish and cross the ball for a Salah tap-in, penalties being won left, right and centre, or one of those brilliant assists that he's doing kind of outside of the boot, or one of his finesse shots. There are so many routes to points with Salah, so long may it continue, even in the tougher fixtures on paper. It also should be said that Man City coming off the back of another heavy defeat, or at least conceding a lot of goals against Real Madrid in the midweek. So neither team are rested, and certainly Man City are prone to conceding goals against the best teams and the best players. And if Mbappe can do it against Man City, then I'm sure Salah can as well. Cole Palmer is my next player, and he has been a little bit disappointing recently, I have to admit. However, with Southampton and Leicester at home coming up in the near future, there's no way I'm going to remove the best flat track bully in the Premier League ahead of these amazing fixtures. So let's see what happens here. Aston Villa away from home, I don't think is too bad of a fixture, but it is going to require Chelsea to up their form a little bit because they have been so poor recently. But this is a team, Aston Villa, that do concede goals, and Chelsea and Palmer could be the guys to capitalise on it. I'm just kind of hoping for a penalty at this point. Seems like it's been a while since Palmer got a penalty, and that was kind of his thing last season. Yeah, not really happening over the past couple of months. Anyway, Brian and Burmo, speaking of penalty takers, we've got another one in the team against Leicester away. This is a really nice opportunity for Brentford to try and make better on what happened last game week. They should have absolutely battered West Ham, and you would say, in theory, Leicester are a weaker team. This time, they'll go again against an even weaker opposition. If they put up the kind of performance they did against West Ham, there will be goals in this game. No more bad luck, goals ruled offside, and Burmo is surely going to cook against Leicester. And one other thing of note, I did notice the trends on the areas in which Leicester do concede their goals, and they do sometimes concede goals on their left channel. So the right side is where Burmo plays, so maybe that could be a nice positional matchup from Burmo as well there. So I do quite like him for this game week ahead of this very, very favourable fixture for Burmo and Brentford. We've got Cliver in here as well. Wolves at home is the fixture. A little bit disappointing with just the one assist against Southampton, but we go again with this penalty-taking man. Hopefully he can start to get back some of that insane form, but in general, we see this Bournemouth team is just in incredible form right now, and we expect them to deliver results pretty much no matter what the opponent is. unless it's Liverpool, who, in fairness, a couple of weeks ago, when Bournemouth did face Liverpool, I felt they were unlucky in that game and could have definitely got some goals in that game, but they didn't. But it still looks like everything is looking so good for Bournemouth. They are pushing for Champions League games. They're not going to take their foot off the gas pedal right now, and goals should continue to flow as they have been doing for the past several game weeks. We've got Rodgers as the final pick in my midfield right now. Super unlucky last game week. Absolutely killing it in all other competitions. League Cup, FA Cup, in the Champions League. Rodgers has done it all in all competitions, and it's such a shame that the FPL points aren't coming, because everything but the FPL points seems to be right there for the taking. He does face Chelsea at home, which right now it's a great time to play Chelsea as they are so poor at the moment. Certainly a team that will be conceding goals. And if Rodgers can get the chances that he did perhaps against Ipswich, maybe this time he will bury them. But again, maybe not. With a blank game week coming up for Rodgers, though, he is one of those players I am tempted to remove in the near future. So just keep an eye on that one. But let's have a look at some of the midfield numbers first of all, before we move on to the forwards. We are seeing that Mbeumo is actually number one alongside Salah for expected goal involvements over the past 6 game weeks per start. So even though it seems like Salah has been scoring a crazy amount of points, and he certainly has been outscoring Mbeumo, that has been because Salah has been overperforming and Mbeumo has been underperforming. Now, you perhaps expect Salah to overperform generally, but Mbeumo is more of a consistent man, and I think he will start to pick up some points in the very near future, particularly in these phenomenal fixtures that he has coming up next. 0.8 expected goal involvements per game is no joke, and particularly against the easy oppositions, he's going to get even more opportunities to boost that numbers and hopefully turn these expected goal involvements into actual goal involvements. And hey, a penalty would be pretty nice as well. We mentioned Salah there as well. After that, we have a couple of injured players, Madueke, Ahmad, Savinho, maybe with a bit of rotation risk, but also plays Liverpool next. And after that, we have the likes of Palmer, Foden, and Dango here as well, with Cliver a little bit further down the list. But it looks like most of my midfielders, with the exception of Rodgers, are putting up incredible numbers in the Premier League. So I think we are looking, at least from a analytical and statistical point of view, that we have a really strong midfield, but maybe it can be improved. But we're going to cover that in a short moment. But first of all, I want to have a look at the forward positions. I have Isak in my team against Nottingham Forest, and according to the analytics guys, Isak could actually be the best captain for game week 26, with some really nice goal scoring odds for him for this home game against Nottingham Forest. I know Nottingham Forest are seen as this kind of crazy team that defy all odds, and that's certainly true, but the bookmakers do quite like Isak for this game week, as well as the data and the analytics for him. So that's pretty positive there for Isak, despite some blanks in recent game weeks. So let's see what happens. Like I say, Nottingham are freaks, and even though they do concede chances and don't create very much, they always seem to get a result anyway. But this is a big game for Newcastle as they chase down these Champions League positions. So I think they can get a result at home. I think Newcastle are good enough to defy whatever it is that Nottingham Forest are doing right now, particularly when you see Forest and they have start to show some fragilities, some kind of, I don't know, negativity in recent game weeks. We have seen them, with the exception of that crazy 7-0 game against Brighton, some of the results haven't been going 100% their way. So I wonder if Newcastle can continue to buck this trend of Nottingham Forest being absolute freaks of data, I suppose. And Whistler is the final player. Look, so unlucky. His data is absolutely incredible. And against Leicester next, surely at this moment he is gonna turn it on and actually get the points for the great finishes that he has been providing. Let's have a look at his data here, because it really is magical. 0.9 expected goal involvements per game. Only Mateta is better per start over the last 6 game weeks, and obviously Mateta is a penalty taker as well. Wissa is not. So he's been doing all of this from open play. This expected goal involvement data doesn't even include the disallowed goals that he scored in recent weeks. So really, everything is pointing towards a mega haul from Wissa against this Leicester side. It's looking so good. Of course, in third place, we have Isak, who has dropped below Mateta and Wissa in terms of those best data forwards, and Haaland is joint with Isak here as well. Another couple of interesting players that I know you guys are maybe talking about right now. Wood is on 0.6 expected goal involvements per start, and Cunha is down at 0.5 alongside Marmoush. So two other potential options there. 0.5 expected goal involvements per game. That's pretty decent, and we know that both Cunha and Marmoush have good fixtures coming up soon on the horizon. Maybe they've not quite arrived yet, but these are two players I certainly want to keep an eye on as we progress through the game weeks. But the two forwards that I have, Wissa and Isak, very, very strong indeed, data backed, looking good on the pitch, and I think they can produce some results this week, particularly Wissa against Leicester. I think this is the one. I've got a good feeling about this one after last game week. He will be frustrated. He will be wanting to get those numbers on the board after being robbed in game week 25. Game week 26 is his time. Let's go, Yoane Wissa. But first of all, let's go to the bench. Fabianski is on here, not really playing anymore, so he can stay rooted there, even if he was playing away against Arsenal. Not really the one, is it? And Dye is still injured, and we're expecting him to be out until game week 29 at the earliest. So he's going to be out for game week 29. Maybe he comes back in game week 30. That's kind of our best case scenario. So he's certainly a player I need to remove at some point. The thing is, right now, my starting 11 is strong enough that I don't need to make an Ndiaye transfer right now. And I'm going to circle back to Ndiaye when we talk about my transfer moves, because there is some potential to go early on some transfers here if I wanted to. But it will just be a case of, who do I bench? Maybe some of you guys say Rodgers. But anyway, Trent is on the bench, as we mentioned before, as is Castagna. So right now, these are my bench defenders. I am open to putting one in instead of Hall, but I'm not really sure which one, and I'm struggling to find a convincing argument that defeats the others, if that makes sense. Bit of a toss-up there. A three-way coin toss would really, really help me out right there. But anyway, guys, we need to talk about the assistant manager, because I'm sure that's probably the first place you guys are looking to make a transfer this week. If you're on a Slot or an Emery, you may be looking at moving him on to someone else. I'm on Slot, away against Man City. Is there anything we can do about that? And I was thinking about this, really deeping this today, trying to think, what is my best option here? What should I do? I have that free transfer. I don't need to make any other transfers in my team. I'm happy to play Rodgers, and Dye can just sit on the bench. Not going to change my defense. Midfield and forwards looking pretty good right now. Slot is surely a place I could potentially go for one of my transfers. So I was thinking this, and later on in the day I actually looked up. Rob T created another great graphic, so we're going to put that on screen. And I think this really emphasizes my thinking that I was thinking today, and that is, I cannot find a convincing argument to sell Slots for anyone else. And I know that sounds controversial, guys, because you guys are going to be looking at Arteta here, 8.4 projected assistant manager points, and that is based on the win chances, the draw chances, how many goals they're expected to score, what the chances are of a clean sheet, and with some of these other managers, it also includes the table bonus to project the points. And Mikel Arteta seems, if you're a safe kind of manager, by far the best manager to go for. And if there were, if you had free transfers for your assistant managers, like if changing your manager didn't cost transfers, there is no doubt I would be changing Slot to Arteta if I wanted to play it safe, or like a Glasner if I wanted to play a little bit riskier. However, I look through these, I think Arteta and Arsenal, lacking their attackers, did struggle at times against Leicester. Is it a guaranteed win? Are we going to get a big win here? Probably not. You're not going to get a huge amount of assistant manager points here. There's no big upside. You're looking at kind of 10 points maximum, really. You'd be fortunate to get any more than that. Glasner, I'm not convinced against Fulham away at all. Fulham are doing really well at the moment. This is a team that's beaten Forest and beaten Newcastle in recent game weeks. Fulham actually putting up some of the best defensive numbers in the Premier League over the past kind of month or so as well. So even though Crystal Palace, who, by the way, looked poor against Everton, Eza's not fully fit, Wharton's not fully fit, there are troubling times for Crystal Palace right now. And even though this looks, this is a decent risk, there's a good chance this pays off. but an even bigger chance it really doesn't pay off. So do I want to take that risk? Do I want to use a transfer here? Maybe, maybe not. I'm certainly not going to bet on Ruud van Nistelrooy against my Brentford boys. Kieran McKenna against Spurs. Don't get me wrong, I'm a little bit tempted, but Spurs, they have players coming back. So there are so many arguments, despite the fact you can make arguments about huge points potential here, there's actually a lot of arguments against all of these managers as well, and no one stands out as super convincing. Even Hertzler, no table bonus there, you may as well just go for Arteta. Iraola, no table bonus, you may as well go Arteta because they have the better projected goals, the better clean sheet odds there as well. So where do we go? Looking through the assistant manager projected points, Slot, Emery, they are super low down the table here. 5.5 projected points for Slot compared to Mikel Arteta at 8.4. That is a difference of 2.9 projected points. And to gain 2.9 points is actually pretty nice. But the problem is, transfers are so valuable right now, and even if you think you are completely covered for Game Week 29, you can use your transfers there, or even if you're free hitting in Game Week 29, you're going to need more transfers later, whether that's for double Game Week 33, double Game Week 34, there's potential for an extra fixture to go into Game Week 32 now, maybe Man City double in 32, that's a possibility. We've got Game Week 36, which could be a double, Game Week 37, that could be a blank. If you have free transfers, you can say right now, well, these transfers, they're free. They don't cost me anything. But believe me, between now and the end of the season, you are going to take a hit. It's going to happen because it is going to be such a crazy, chaotic end to the season that you are going to need to take a hit at some point. And if you are going to take a hit later on in the season, that means every transfer you use now has a value of 4 points. That's the way I see it. So can I gain 4 points by moving Slot to Arteta or Glasner? Sure, maybe, but the odds are that I don't. I actually lose out on points. That is what the odds are saying. So for me personally, I think I'm just going to stick with Arne Slot, and that's because I value these transfers so much. I don't see enough points to be gained in this particular game week by using a transfer on a manager. But if you do want to take a risk, that is totally fine too. But as I'm more of a planner and patient kind of manager, I really want to prepare for the chaos of future game weeks. And I really want to leave my options very much open for game week 29 in terms of trying to get the best 11 out in game week 29 to have a really good game week without having to use a free hit. And saving 4 transfers between now and then, maybe I don't save them every week, but, you know, using the 4 transfers between Game Week 26 and Game Week 29 to make consistent moves to remove blank game week players and improve my team for game week 29, I think that's going to be super, super helpful and really, really benefit me in the slightly longer term, rather than just attempting to try and get a minor gain on Slot. If Slot beats Man City, then this whole argument is moot, and Slot is, you know, fine to keep if we think he's going to beat Man City, and I do think that. So therefore, I'm keeping Slot, but I don't want to put you guys off doing other moves. This is just my play style. I'm just trying to play a long-term game here, and I don't see enough gains to be made in this particular game week to make it worthwhile taking a risk, taking a punt on this one, particularly at the cost of a very valuable transfer. So that's just my opinion. Please don't shoot me for it. I think all opinions are valid. I think there are other ways to play this. This is just the way I'm choosing to play this, and I hope that's cool with you guys. So, no assistant manager transfer, which brings us to my Game Week 29 related transfers. Is there any moves that I can make right now that will improve my team right now, but also improve my team for Game Week 29? Now, I have a couple of problem players. We have Rodgers, who doesn't play in Game Week 29, and, you know, maybe the weakest of my starting 11. And we have Ndai, who has a fixture in Game Week 29, but is injured and super likely to be out for Game Week 29. So Ndai is useless to me now, and probably going to be useless to me all the way until game week 30-31. And I'm planning on wildcarding around game week 30 or 31 anyway. So Ndai's got to go from my team at some point. Rodgers has to go from my team at some point. What can we do? Well, I think the best thing to do, and the first thing I did, was have a look at the Fantasy Football Hub Opta stats. And what I did here was I ordered players by expected goal involvements. So all players over the past 6 game weeks, expected goal involvements, who is expected to be involved in the most goals, Then I removed all of the players from the list who blank in Game Week 29 because I'm not interested in those. Mateta, not interested. You know, Gakpo, Luis Diaz, Watkins, not interested in any of these guys. Not going to buy them now. They blank in Game Week 29. I need to gain playing players for Game Week 29. So who does that leave us with? Well, a lot of players I already have. Wissa and Mbermo are top of this list. We also have Palmer in this list as well, and Cliver. And there's some other players here that I think could fill in the gaps to create a really strong Game Week 29 team. And the kind of players I'm looking at are in the forward position, Haaland, Wood, and Cunha. But I don't want to exclude Marmoush either. The problem is with all of those players, Wood, Cunha, Haaland, Marmoush, they all have pretty difficult fixtures this week, so this is probably not the week to make a and die move. I've identified 4 forwards that I really like the look of, but I don't want to do that right now. I don't think it improves my team enough in this exact instant. We could look at the midfield. Can we do anyone better than Rodgers? So we have the likes of Savinho here, maybe a little bit rotation risk. Am I willing to take that punt? Well, maybe it gets better now that Man City are out the Champions League. They are going to be focused more on the Premier League because they're only in the Premier League and FA Cup now. So there's going to be more focus there for Man City. Maybe that improves Savinho, but I'm not 100% convinced by him. After that, we have the likes of Foden, a little bit expensive for my budget right now, but we could maybe look at him later. And the other player is Dango, 5.1 million, really nice fixtures, good fixture right now at home against Wolves. And I would say out of all of the potential transfer moves I could make for my team, including the manager, the one I'm most tempted by is Dango, because I need to remove Rodgers at some point anyway. Making a transfer now can benefit my team in the longer term, whereas a manager transfer only helps you for 1 week. And I'm going to have to do something like this anyway. So Rodgers to Dango is definitely a potential move. Just looking through Dango right now, I mean, Wolves at home is the next fixture, as we mentioned. Then we've got Brighton, Spurs, Brentford at home in 29. And if I do choose to wildcard in Game Week 31 or maybe even 32, we have good fixtures in 30 and 31 for Bournemouth as well, against Ipswich and West Ham. So the latest I wildcard is likely to be Game Week 32 anyway. So we have this really nice run of 6 fixtures for Bournemouth to do that triple up and get this out of position Bournemouth striker who has been in pretty hot form recently, scoring 4 goals in the last 3 game weeks. That's not too bad at all for him. So I'm really tempted by this one. We know that Wolves are a team that concede a lot of goals through central areas, but at the same time, looking at my team, Rodgers is not a must sell at all. I really don't think he is a must sell, but it's just a case of if I'm going to do this move anyway, and if I even slightly prefer Dango for Game Week 26 rather than Rodgers, then maybe I just make this move. Maybe I just go for it at this point and kind of see what happens. I think Dango certainly has the higher upside in this game week. I can certainly see Rodgers scoring against Chelsea, but I can see Dango potentially getting multiple attacking returns against Wolves. It could be super, super interesting. I've seen some people even looking at captaining Dango this week, which seems a bit crazy, but it just goes to show how much faith and confidence people have in him right now. So that is what I'm looking at right now, guys. I think this looks like a potential move I could make. I don't want to lock it in now, the Rodgers to Atara move, because I think it is a little bit luxury, but I'd be keen to get your thoughts on that. This would be my team. Should I move Rodgers to Dango? Let me know in the comments, if you think that it would be a good move or not. I quite like it. Or, of course, if you think I should do a different move, including managers, love to hear from you guys about that one as well. My captain is going to be on Salah this week. I think I just trust Salah so much at this point, and I don't think I'm going to take the risk because no one else convinces me enough that they can beat the absolute freak that is Mo Salah right now. We'll put the vice captain on Brian and Burmo as well, but honestly, Cliver, Isak, Wissa, even Atara, if I buy him, could all be great captain options as well. And I think that shows how strong my team is right now, how strong my squad is right now, and I'm happy with it, even though it has been disappointing me. It's a good team, man, and I won't be convinced otherwise. It's a strong, solid, excellent team. But I want to talk more about Game Week 29 and my plans towards that, because we touched on it before. I'm going to show you my kind of possibilities, what I can do with those 4 transfers between now and Game Week 29 to really, really improve my team. So guys, we're on the Fantasy Football Hub My Team planning tool. Of course, all of the data we use today with the Opta stats screenshots, those tools are also on the Fantasy Football Hub website. If you want to check it out, use the link in the description, go to the website or app, and you can get a free trial right now to access all of these tools that I use all of the time to try and help plan my FPL team. But let's just go through my team. So let's just say, for example, I did make this Rodgers to Dango move. And even if I don't make it this week, it's likely that I do it next week or the week after anyway, as Rodgers' fixtures do start to look a little bit worse. So let's have a look at that move and what that means for my team. So we'll go through. So that will be one of my 4 free transfers between now and game week 29. I'll have one in 27, one in 28, and one in 29. So an additional 3 to make. What can we do with those 3 transfers? Well, let's head over to game week 29. And first of all, we can see that we have a few blanking players: Hall, Salah, Isak, Trent, and Ndai, due to the fact that he is injured, unfortunately, which is just bad fortune. I would have liked to have Ndai for these fixtures, but you can't have it all, folks. You really, really can't. But looking through here, I think there are a few players I would like to keep because I have a lot of team value tied up in them. And they are Salah, so let's just throw him on the bench, Hall, and Isak. I bought all of these players at a super cheap price. I bought Hull for like 4.3, Isak for like 8.5, and Salah for like, I don't know, 12.7, something like that. So I have so much team value tied up in these players. If I want to maintain my team value, then I need to keep these players if possible. So we're looking at a potential 4-4-2 formation this game, for game week 29, that is. And now there are a couple of routes I can take. And we mentioned a few forwards I like the look of, and that included Wood, it included Cunha, and included Marmoush. If I do that, it's going to be pretty straightforward to use 3 more transfers to sort this out. I can even do it in 2. I could just maybe just take out Trent and Ndai, and that would I would only use 2 free transfers and have a really strong team. I can maybe even look to sell one of Salah and Isak, though I'm not totally convinced I want to do that unless I have to. But I did have another idea here, guys, that does look genuinely really, really nice. So, and it gives me a captain option for game week 29 as well. So if I decided to not go down the, you know, Marmoush, Cunha, Wood route, and all of those are great options, by the way, guys, I could instead go to the Haaland route and get Haaland in my team for game week 29. And he's likely a player who I will want on my game week 30, 31, 32 wildcard anyway, because we're expecting double game weeks for Man City. So I might have Haaland in the late season anyway. So it might be nice to go on him early before he starts to rise in price and catch some team value there. But also, I need to figure out a way to do that. And there's 2 players I'm happy to remove. First of all, Trent Alexander-Arnold. We need to free up a little bit of budget. Taking him down to Gavardio does the trick. Well, at least part of the trick. The other part is to remove Palmer. And I can't see Palmer being in my team for as much of the late game this season. I want to get Southampton and Leicester at home for him. But after that, Chelsea are just not it right now. So I am happy to sell Palmer, open to getting him back later, but with no double game weeks in game week 33, I don't think I'm going to go for... I don't think I'm going to have Palmer on my wild card anyway. So I'm happy to drop him. And I don't lose that much team value in him anyway, because people seem to be selling him. But if I sell Palmer, I'm actually going to have 6.5 million to spend based on right now, because I'll have the slot money to come back into my bank account by that point as well. So I'll have 6.5 million to spend on a midfielder for game week 29. Who do we go for that costs 6.5 or less? Well, there are a variety of options. Interestingly, Savinho, who we touched on earlier, is definitely one of those options for that specific game week. But we can maybe look at Garnacho against Leicester. We can look at Nwaneri, who faces Chelsea in that game. We've got Kudus against Everton. There are a variety of options. We could go for a Gibbs White or an Elanga potentially. So I don't really want to lock it in who I might go for game week 29. But let's just say Elanga, for example. Let's throw him in. And I know it says I'm over budget, but that's not accounting for my slot money that hasn't been released. And that would give me this team for game week 29. And given that this is not a free hit team, genuinely kind of like it. We can captain Haaland here. We can maybe put the vice captain on, this is Dango's second highest predicted points there, so maybe something like that. Actually gives me a team rating of 94% for game week 29 without the use for free hit, without taking any hits, and it all comes down to well, not using a transfer on an assistant manager right now. I can get to this team, which I think looks super strong. There are other options. There are other ways to do this, which involve going for Cunha, Marmoush, or Wood, and that would involve keeping Palmer and maybe doing things slightly differently. But I wanted to throw out this idea as an example of how I can get to my team to Game Week 29 in a super strong position without taking any hits. It is so possible. Selling the likes of Trent and Palmer allow you to get Haaland into your team for Game Week 29, who, despite all the criticism, he's actually been doing fine recently. He's actually been doing pretty well recently. I know his price tag puts people off, but if we can make it happen, even just for the short term, and then reevaluate how we spread our budget in our wildcard teams later on, that's totally fine too. This looks good. This looks good to me, and this is my current thinking, my current planning for now all the way up to Game Week 29 and how I want my team to look. So, guys, I appreciate this has been a super long video, but there's just been so much I feel I've wanted to talk about before we get to the Game Week 26 deadline. There's so many big questions to answer, and I hope we have answered a lot of those questions within this video. So, guys, if you do enjoy the content, make sure you do hit a like, subscribe if you haven't done already. Check out another video if you want to, the experts, buy, sell, keep, avoid. It's all on the channel right now, but I will see you later, mates, for more streams on Friday. See ya. Bye-bye.